Welcome to Dear Alice, a lifestyle approach to interior design.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dear Alice. We have another fun episode for you today. But first, I want to know, Corey Sue, is there anything exciting going on in your world?
Oh my gosh. Fall is upon us. So
Yes.
I have my brain back and we're getting a routine. Kids are back in school. Raise your hands if like you moms and dads like feel like you got the other half of your brain back. Also, I need to yell into this thing apparently because I'm a soft talker. So I apologize for all the mumbling that's been done thus far.
Yeah.
And I will make a concentrated effort to talk loud into this mic so you can hear what I got to say.
I love it. That is exciting.
Anyway,
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing these days. Routine and talking louder for people to hear me.
I love it.
That's amazing.
Corey, what are you doing?
I've just been busy. I'm working on, by the time this podcast comes out, actually, we will have video on Spotify. I'm just throwing that out there to the universe. It's been a little bit of
I'm
a
so
project,
happy.
but so
Okay.
when you're listening on Spotify, it will just pop up as you're listening to our episode and we'll be there. So video on YouTube, Spotify, bringing
It's
visuals.
a twofer. It's so nice.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Guys,
Easy.
I've been switching over to watching them on Spotify. There's just something about seeing what's happening or just even a person talk and their inflections. And
Mhm.
I feel like
Facial
you connect
expressions,
more with
yeah.
it, but this is such a visual medium that we're talking about. So I'm hoping, I mean, no, only a small percentage go to YouTube to see it. So this should make things a lot easier for you.
Yeah.
To be able to watch it on Spotify.
Mhm.
It's like, it's just an easy app. It's, I don't know why YouTube feels a little bit more advanced for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're a YouTube watcher.
Yeah. I
YouTuber.
mean, I understand that it's like more complicated.
Uh-huh.
The thing I like about Spotify is that you're like, oh, I mean, it can just be the audio. You don't have to like be, queuing it up to video and like load. It's
Yeah.
it's simple.
It's both.
Yeah.
So you can listen and watch or just do one or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Love.
like, hey, Apple, it's 2024. Get with the program.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Catch up. Good
Yep.
job, Spotify.
Yeah.
Great.
And we pull a lot of images for these podcasts. So research project coming at you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We have a lot of good visuals. So definitely watch this on YouTube or Spotify to get the full Monty.
Guys,
So,
that's
yeah,
exciting.
very exciting.
Great. Well, that is that's good. I have a little question for you guys as well. What is your favorite thing to collect during your travels? Or just
Ooh.
to collect in general? Are you guys collectors?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. Like I wish I could collect guitars. That'd be nice, but they're too expensive. I mean, I do. I just don't buy as many as I would like.
How many
That'd
guitars
be
do you
awesome if
have?
every time you go on a plane, you just like have a guitar coming home with you.
For real.
Uh-huh.
Take an empty case with me just to bring
No.
them back.
That'd be
Mhm.
very fun.
Yeah. I actually have not quite a few, but probably 10.
Oh, that sounds like you collect
You're a
guitars.
collector.
Yeah.
Sure.
yeah. I've been playing for 20 years. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
somewhere around there.
It's good.
But one thing that I try to get almost every trip, like if I go somewhere new, and it's not actually about necessarily the thing I'm buying. It's more of the stores. I try to go to like a cool vinyl store somewhere and then I buy, some records or something like that. So it's just records that maybe I love and, I've always wanted, but it's kind of just supporting a local record store from wherever I go. Like
I love
there's
that.
this town, Newburyport in Massachusetts, that has this like tiny little record store and has been there since the 90s. It was really cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
I bet it has a certain smell.
Yes. Yeah.
I think of Music Studio from Lola Harper James, right?
Yeah. It's
The
like a little
vinyl?
bit dusty, smelly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I love. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
I don't know. That just
vinyl.
supports a medium I like and gets me something that I can always look back and, think of that trip. So
Yeah.
what about you,
She
Sus?
doesn't take a lot of room either. Vinyls.
That's true.
Slide it
Yeah.
right into the carry-on.
Yep.
I collect I think it's no surprise. I collect art. And so when I go places, I either grab objects that I can frame or objects that I can like display amidst like a collection. So art or ceramics, I think are the two most common things. I grabbed last trip to Palm Springs. I got a piece of pottery and that necklace, that old Mexican massive beaded necklace
So good.
that we had framed. And so again, just like weird things, weird things to display with my other weird things.
Yeah. I
That's
love
what I
it.
collect.
Yep.
It's a lot of weird stuff.
I like that.
But it's really fun and it comes back with a story. And so,
Mhm.
and if you are going to collect, I think we're going into an age where like you want your collections to be intentional.
Yeah.
And so we're always looking for like what is going to be like I don't know, instead of a lot of little things, like what is going to be like the one grand gesture or a compliment on my other gestures, so it like feels whole, right?
I think it adds soul to a house
Totally does.
and like individual style, right? And also the one of a kind factor also really amps that
Love
up,
it.
because then you're not like, oh yeah, you bought that out of Ballard Design.
Yeah,
Could you imagine
totally.
Sue's house with Ballard Design in it? That was funny just now. Nothing against Ballard Design because it's so cute, but Sue's is just so curated and one of a kind that she would never have anything catalog, I feel like.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want anyone to be able to identify anything in my house as seen somewhere else.
Yeah.
So
Because you're a true individual. Yeah.
sorry,
An artist.
Shoot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jess. What do you collect on your travels, my friend?
I love a curiosity. In our last travels to North Carolina, I got a princess hand, a little brass
Tell us
hand.
about a princess hand.
Yeah, sure.
Oh,
What,
yeah.
what is a princess hand, Jess?
Well, thank you for asking. So it's from one of the oldest bronze makers in the world that make bronze sculptures, and it came with the person that had it in this vintage area said that the princess hand was sculpted and then bronzed by the very best bronze company in Europe. And it has the little signature of that bronze factory on it. And they said there was two sisters. So they were both princesses. One was beautiful, one was not.
Mm.
And they did the princess hand and nobody knows which
I
sister
was about
it
to say,
is.
whose hand did you get?
Isn't
Yeah,
that
I was-
fun?
I was gonna
Well, you
ask
don't
that.
know. I mean, you don't know if the beautiful sister had ugly hands. Maybe the less attractive sister had beautiful hands, right?
Yeah.
You don't really know if you have the gift of a beautiful hand or not, unless somebody points out, like, you should be a hand model. Corey, you have
Yeah.
nice hands.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, you just don't know. You don't know if you have beautiful hands.
Oh, these
But-
little things.
It's nobody's business. But I have to say, Corey and I, in our work to develop product, is we've been developing these curiosities. So I look all over for these things because I buy them anyway for my house, which also gives it that one of a
Totally.
kind
Yeah.
curiosity. And when people are talking, they're like, what is this brass hand? Like, is this,
So glad you asked.
what's the story? Right?
That's the princess hand.
Yeah. Let me tell you the story. And you can make up a story if you want.
I know.
Like I had the gold bar that I picked up in
Totally.
Palm Springs, and then we had recreated so that people could have a gold bar on their table. And
Mm.
the Harper hand is something that I've had in my collection forever. I also love pottery. Yeah. Sue and I went to a fun little yard vintage sale in Palm Springs. Remember, I bought a girl's first piece of pottery, and she goes, "Can I take your picture with it? Because I want a picture of everybody that buys my pottery." So I'm holding this little mint chocolate chip looking
Aw.
vase that she made, and I love that. I live somewhere in her camera roll of like the person that bought her first piece of pottery, and I look at it and I think of her in that interaction, which is fun. So I think also gives things soul.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You met the artist.
I did.
That's so
Which,
cool.
yeah, didn't we meet somebody once that said they have to meet the artist if they're going to have the art in their home because they want to hear the story, because that story is what makes it come alive for them,
Yeah, that's
right?
how when you fall in love.
Yeah,
Yep.
totally.
100%.
I was just
I concur.
imagine like what they're like. I think when I write a song and I'm like, pouring feelings into it, and then someone can take it for their own interpretation.
For sure.
I, for some stupid reason, when I look at art, I like try to like, what were they thinking? Like, what was the mindset?
Yeah.
So I just create my own story in my head and
Yeah.
Yeah.
maybe fall in love with that. I don't
I
know.
know.
Or I don't, and I
Then you don't buy it.
exactly.
Like, that was a terrible story. I don't
Boo.
want
They'll,
that.
I feel like they'll at least, like the vintage
Yeah.
stores that we've shopped at, they'll at least be able to tell you the era, the style, right? The artists, what other works that they've done with, or who their contemporaries were at the time. And you can start to get enough of a story that at least when somebody asks you about the art, you can regurgitate what you happen to know about it. And then in your own research, you can find other facts too. So you can can cobble together enough of a story to make it feel more personal in your home. So you're like, I don't know, somebody that's dead, but the color was right. You know, like you don't want to just say that.
Guys, I'm going to tell the story and then we'll get to our topic real fast.
Yeah.
On the collections is like over a few years, I've been collecting from this one artist. She's a Arizona native. She's passed away. She was like bigger in like the 30s and things, but her name was Polly Weldon, and women's art just wasn't as celebrated.
Uh-huh.
But she studied with a lot of brilliant people. She went to France. She ended up living in Brazil, and like in her paintings, you can feel that soul and her story and everything. And so whenever I come across anything of hers, I pick it up. Just like, and a lot of them are just the studies,
Yeah.
but it's just become like this. I just have like this like beautiful like love for this woman that
Oh,
Anyway,
that's so
just-
sweet.
anyway,
Polly
these are-
Weldon.
Polly Weldon. Some of her, yeah, Polly
Yeah,
Walden.
cute.
Pauline Walden. Sometimes she signs or anyway.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's
But,
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you find something, I'm just saying that like keep within that stream because that story will just become all the more celebrated in your home.
And you have like more
Yeah.
conviction for it. And
Ooh.
yeah,
You're like, I feel like I'm
it's a
supporting
continuum.
her, you know, like,
yeah.
like keep on, because I'm like, she's passed away. I don't know, obviously family, whatever, but I'm like, she deserves to be celebrated.
I
Mm-hmm.
have to
just love
say,
that.
yes. Speaking of that and kind of staying in the same vein, when Sue and we went down to Arizona to do some vintage shopping and get inspired.
It's
And
really fun to go traveling.
yeah, y'all are invited. We would love you to come.
Palm
It's really
Springs
fun.
2025.
Yes, we'll get t-shirts.
Yeah.
We're going to rent a big
Graphic
tour
tee.
bus.
Dear
It's-
Alice live event. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Palm Springs.
That would be so
That'd be so much
cute.
fun.
Oh my gosh, we could close full restaurants down and all hang out together and
Yeah.
talk about
So
interior design.
Exactly.
It'd be really fun. So we're talking to one of the gentlemen at John Brooks, which is to the trade showroom that sells like Holly Hunt and Christian Lieg and just like all the greats, Philip Jeffries wallpaper and the best fabric lines. And anyway, one of the gentlemen there is he collects Fiesta ware. Do you guys know what
Look
Fiesta
it up,
ware
guys,
is?
please, right now.
It's like a set of nesting bowls from, I don't even know, the 1910s to the 30s to on
Like
and
even
on.
to like the 50s, 60s. They
Yes.
have like Fiesta wear.
Totally. And it's like party brights. The colors are like red and yellow and orange and
It's
it's
like turquoise, but like just like rich aquas and like
Yeah.
and terracottas.
and
they're
they all
so good.
they all fit together like Russian nesting dolls, right? This sets of bowls. And he has, I don't even know,
hundreds.
hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sets. And he can tell you on the bottom, like this one was made in the early 1900s before they had machines. And so they had to set them on these little feet. And that's what these marks are. And these are the rarest ones that are
Oh.
worth the most. And then this is when they changed and they started doing things this way.
Factory
And you could see like the little tiny inconsistencies. And that's what made it the most valuable because it was before the machines took over and started doing it. But his collection, he's had like acrylic made to house certain things. And the way it's displayed is like a ton of the same thing is so fun to look at. It's a party for your eyes. And you're like, you're so interesting. Tell me why, where, how do you find it all? And everywhere he goes, he's always on the hunt for the exact same thing, even though he already has hundreds of them. It's so fun.
That's way. It's cool
Yeah.
that he like knows like the tail signs to like look for. Be like, oh, this is an awesome one.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Talk about a collector. That's
I
rad to
know.
know stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the rest of the trip, every time we saw Fiesta wear, we're like, send it to him.
Yeah.
like, quick, take a picture.
It's his thing.
So
yeah.
good.
Yeah. It's
But-
so
That's
fun.
awesome.
Yeah, you'd go around every like little quiet corner and you'd like be welcomed by like this massive built-in in the back room, just pillowed with Fiesta wear. And it
Yeah.
was the coolest thing. And you're like, man,
Yeah.
what a fascinating, like the most interesting man in the world collects that much Fiesta wear. I guarantee you.
Yeah.
Like it was fabulous.
Yeah.
So good.
So good. Well, that
Okay.
leads us to our topic. Yeah.
Today we're going to be talking about what to do with this great big wall that I feel like we get this question a lot. Like, I have a giant wall. What do I do with it? I have a massive 2-story like stairwell, but I have all this wall space. What do I do with it? We get that question all the time. And so today we're going to be talking about that. And we're going to be talking about the built-ins. We're going to be talking about that big stairwell wall. We're going to be talking about the window wall. We're going to be talking about just several, I think we have like 5 different spaces in the home that we most commonly get asked these questions for on how to address that big wall and what we do with it and how we like help direct our clients in what to collect. If they should do built-ins,
Yeah.
first of all,
Yep.
or like if they're not a good candidate for some of these things. So that's what
Mhm.
we're going to dive into today.
Yeah.
And I think we want to start with built-ins actually.
Oh, let's
So,
do it.
let's do it.
Yes. So today, I feel like the built-in. When we design these, we choose the colors, the hardware, the TV often will go in the built-in, but then you have all these shelves that you've got to fill. And so our job as designers is to generally buy a lot of beautiful objects, books, bookends, things to display, picture frames, like to help really fill these up. And it's interesting. There's a lot of people that don't collect anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so they get these big, huge walls of built-ins built, and then they don't have anything to house them in. And so I think that this is something you should consider if you are doing a new build, is what are your collections and how many built-ins do you have? Because I think that this is I'm going to call it a design crutch that I
Mhm.
feel like a lot of interior designers are doing today is they see a big wall and they're like, let's do built-ins without considering for a moment what the homeowner might have in their collection or not have. Because we're pretty paperless today. You can, even if you're a reader, you can listen to audiobooks or you can do it on a Kindle. You might not be collecting hard copies. Now, if you do have hard copies or leather bound or all of that, you're a great candidate for the built-in, right?
Yeah.
My husband has a lot of books, more books than we could fill in all of the bedroom built-ins. And so I have adjacent shelves, and I feel really happy that we have those built-ins to help house all of the reading material that he's collected over the years. So keep that in mind if you're trying to decide where to put that TV, because you've heard us say a million times, do not put that TV over the fireplace, right? It could go in a built-in off to the side at a really nice natural gazing height. But let's consider for a moment what you have when trying to fill up these built-ins.
Because you might be married to a minimalist or, someone that anyway, just really understand that before you just start. Because on plan view, sometimes you don't realize the verticality of just all the things that you're going to fill this with, all the furniture you're going to have to put on the space plan, and all the books you're going to have to get for these built-ins that you're putting everywhere.
Yeah.
And sometimes truly I've had people ask me I have these things, what should I put in them? And they're obviously book built-ins, and I'm we put books in them, and they're
Okay.
oh, got it, okay. And they built the home, and I was just oh shoot, and this was us coming in after the fact, but really understand that about yourself,
Yeah.
if you are a collector or not. And then
Mhm.
it's maybe you would be a better candidate for closed built-ins with doors that
Yeah.
don't have displays.
Totally.
And that's where you keep
that
your
adds
TV.
architectural interest.
Beautiful.
Sure.
We've done really beautiful details on stuff closed built-in so that you don't have to feel the pressure of making it look good all the time.
Yep.
But if you are a collector, you know the value of a built-in, though, that you want to display your collections.
Yes.
A Fiesta ware.
And
Do you guys think sometimes people just think built-ins just to fill space? And
For
then,
sure.
yeah.
I also think it's the formula that you do if you're building the 2-story great room, that you have a wall of windows, you have a wall of built-ins, right? You're just trying to
Yeah.
make the room feel
You have the fireplace, and it's
Filled
we
up.
put built-ins on.
Built-ins flanking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
yeah, because with the great room means you have to do great big gestures because you have great big walls. And this helps bring intimate objects to a huge wall and makes it feel homey. And you can definitely do it. We can buy all the stuff, which is what we do 100% of the time for most people.
We're buyers.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're awesome at
We
it.
do it. But I will say, if you've got built-ins, books are the main ingredient. We're not doing floral arrangements on shelves because it's not a true story that you're going to get up there and water those plants or do you know what I
Or
mean?
Or they're
all
going to
over
stay
your woods.
alive
Yeah.
inside of a built-in.
Yeah.
Yeah, florals
Yeah.
don't have any place in built-ins. I think it's books mostly. We're doing art, we're doing photos, we're doing objects.
Pottery, larger gestures.
Yeah,
too,
and
so
those
it doesn't get
and
too
those
nervous.
collections, you could do built-ins full of vinyl. It'd be
Ooh.
so great. You could do some face forward. You could stack them different ways. Yeah. That's
Just did
really
that for
cool.
a friend, and it was so
You showed
so
me.
good.
Yeah,
she's
it
they
was
had a lot of
so
little
dope.
pottery, but she didn't have any big gestures, and she had this whole this big file thing full of her father-in-law's old vinyls, and they're in the music industry. And I'm like, good gravy! Why don't you have these up on your wall? These are awesome.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we just faced 2 shelves of them forward, and it gave so much back to the space and it told their story.
Yeah.
You should do that.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super
I also
cool.
loved how you took books and you know what I mean, face
Yeah.
out and
Mhm.
it just displays that as art as well.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
You do a
that was
really
cool.
good job. Whenever I style a built-in with Jess, she will if we just need some actual art pieces, she'll find the best front pictures on the books and she'll
Mhm.
face those forward and she'll layer a couple of them forward just so that those are speaking back to you, and then you see that book and you're
Mhm.
I'm gonna grab that, I want to look through that because
Yeah.
it reminds you what it is. Kind
Mhm.
of like those art legends that we do for our kids so they actually read their books. 'Cause
Yes.
they face forward their books
Yeah.
and they can be
And
reminded
you're
of
not
what they
just
have.
looking at the spine. It's
Yes.
so much more interesting to look at what they put on
Yes.
those covers.
And we did this, it wasn't a built-in, but we did the book facing forward in Angie
Mhm.
Harrington's on that little Beauty and the Beast mantle.
Yes.
And it was so dynamic because you're just these are the books she picks up.
Yeah.
And she's just placing them there. After she's in the middle of it and she throws it up there and
Mhm.
it's such a mood.
It is.
So I love that.
It's editorial. It's
Mhm.
just more interesting, which you're trying to add interest to a room
Mhm.
with
art.
with the built-ins. Yeah.
This is my own belief. You guys add to it. If you disagree, totally fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think some people, I'm trying to think if I have a collection that I'm like, that's like a guilty pleasure collection. I don't know. Let's say like,
Can't wait to hear.
if somebody like collects Hot Wheels or something, it's not my thing. You know, you probably wouldn't want a bunch of Hot Wheels, but I think there is
Ooh,
a
should we
cool-
talk about
I-
Barbies?
I think there's a
Yep,
cool
Barbies.
way to
There's
display
a total cool way
something.
to do that.
So you
Absolutely.
may not be confident in your collection, but I think you can take like, you know, some awesome was like, oh yeah, like this is from, you know, 1976. It was one of the first cars, like, and then put it in a display box.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just create
Yeah.
the
The moment.
yeah, and like and create the prestige behind it.
Give
for-
it
so
some
it is
vibrato.
remarkable.
Yeah. I love that.
So
We had a client. Well, she collects Barbies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we have a picture of
picture.
that. So we
I'll
did
show
built-ins
you.
for her.
If you're on Spotify.
Yeah, she's my exact.
Check this out.
She's my exact same age. And do you want me to tell you what, you guys? I was obsessed with Barbies. I played with Barbies forever. And I think it's because I could create these beautiful spaces. Mostly I just wanted to like set up house and I wanted to like get them dressed. I just loved it so much. But she's collected Barbies her whole life, hundreds and hundreds, still in packages. And she had a room upstairs that wasn't in use that we created her office. And really, it was just finally a place for her to get all of her Barbies out and put them on display. And this is our Barbie Dream House. So if you're not watching on Spotify or YouTube, just go look it up on our portfolio or Google Barbie Dream House Alice Lane and it will pop up. So that is a super, super fun room. But I was going to say, one of my favorite things when we were at Market once was we went to one of the high-end showrooms. It's called TA, which is Theodore Alexander. And they had this new collection from Italy. And they did this sneakerhead display, which you go into this,
This
it's
was
like,
years ago too. I feel
Oh,
like,
like
even
before there was the movement.
I feel like this
probably
is like
happening in Italy maybe,
8
but,
years
like,
ago,
it hadn't
9 years
come-
ago.
Yeah.
It was like
so
this
cool.
beautiful men's office, and in all the shelving, which were all leather wrapped, wood shelves with leather wrapped shelving and beautiful stitching. They had shoes facing different directions, all these high tops, and I was like, "Shut up!" And they're like, "Yeah, it's like for the sneakerhead, you know." And I'm like, "Sneakers are a collection, and people spend a lot of money, right? There's StockX out
Yeah.
there, which is like a stock exchange for sneakers, and certain ones are more valuable than others."
And they go up and down
They
like
do.
stocks
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
Yeah. And so sneakers are something that is really fun, really, really fun to display in a men's space, even if it's just the top shelf and they're not going to get those down a lot. It can be the toes faced forward, and then you turn one pair of shoes sideways, so you're looking at the profile, and then the rest toes forward.
Mhm.
There's ways to display those. You can get your husband's most prized possession, which might be sneakers or boyfriends or, you know, whoever it is in your life, your clients. But I think sneakers are also something that is a collection.
Totally.
Their watches, maybe not so. Those deserve to be in a safe. They might collect baseball hats. That's a really nice, you know, top shelf thing.
Mhm.
And then you have like black and white moments in sports that you can get in there. So there's usually a theme in there, and you might just need to help them know that they do have a collection somewhere. And I think it's it was like, you know, the question we opened with to each other is like, what do you collect? It's a fun way to get to know your client.
Yeah. We could maybe do a podcast on like curating your own art, but
Yeah.
I think that's like a good way to do it. Is like, what are the things you love? And if you could, like, what would you buy to display to represent that? You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
oh man, it'd be dope to like buy a signed like Kobe jersey or something and get that framed,
Mhm.
you know? And
Word.
like, so I think some people are just like, oh, they think like art is like painting,
Yeah.
you know? And so yeah, I like how you just said like deep
Yeah,
dive into
objects
kind of
as art. Yeah.
exactly.
Totally.
So good.
Yeah, balls, you know, different sports balls. I love one of our client, his first date, he took his wife to a Nelly concert.
No,
That's
that's
awesome.
when they met.
Oh, they met.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, at a Nelly
At a
concert.
Nelly concert.
And he
That's amazing.
had the ticket framed, big huge mat framed, and it's on a little easel in his office. And you're like, wait, is that a concert, like a paper concert ticket? They're
Mhm.
all digital
So,
today.
yeah.
And so it also was like more nostalgic. And he's like, that's where I met my wife, you know, which
So
is so
cool.
cool. So I think those memories that you have, you can find a way to give it more vibrato, like we were talking about, and really make it a thing to display in those built-ins or on a shelf. But it gives your life this physical evidence of the stories that you want to tell when people come in and he's like, my wife is number one to me, and that's the day I met her. You know,
That's
how
super
cute is
cool.
that?
Yeah.
Love
The
it.
Nelly soundtrack's going on in your
I
head. You're
know.
just like,
Ride with me.
Y'all
Yeah.
still got it. I like it.
Y'all
Getting
still
hot
got
in
it.
Okay.
It's getting hot.
All right. I love that. Okay. So built-ins, that's a beautiful way to fill up large spaces if you're doing a new build, but also a way to analyze if you are a built-in person or not.
Yeah.
So to fill up your big walls. And if not, you're going to get big ass art.
Yes, you are. Let's go to the next
All right.
one.
Number 2 is the wall of windows. I think we also get a lot of questions on windows and window treatments and like, how do I dress this massive wall? It like pitches or it goes up really high. Obviously, it's 2 stories. Like, how do I dress it? And so we get a lot of pictures coming through, and really like it's just trying to get it as high as possible. We do window treatments is what we do in large rooms. And depending on your window grid and depending on like if you do have a pitch or if it is a flat ceiling, it'll depend on how high we take those window treatments. Obviously, the rule and most of the time is to take it up as high as possible. It'll make everything feel taller. There is occasions though when it should be dropped and not go all the way to the ceiling. And that is usually due to like the architecture, what's happening on that second level. And so we have
Let's
a couple
show
other visuals.
Yeah, let's show a picture really quick. So in this instance, this is going the full height of the 2-story room with drapery. And this is another example. Sue, do you want to show
This is from our
that?
Corner Canyon Estate and our Highland Manor. These are both examples of having a 2-story space and taking it all the way to the top. And in these circumstances, we wanted to exaggerate because like the ceiling and what was happening on that second level was something to pay attention to and something we wanted to like draw the eye towards. And so here we actually did like this black linen and we had them hand painted and it was ridiculously good. But like, I can't imagine not having window treatments on those windows.
Yeah.
Like, it would feel so naked in there.
And then this is an
It would
example.
feel quite cold.
Yes. And then this is an example of a double-story window, but we only did drapery on the one level of drapery
Because of the vault, though. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
of the ceiling, which is a tricky one. We just had a question come in yesterday where somebody said they're building a home right now and they wanted to know, they have the option on their floor plan to either make their great room double-story, so they have the full wall of windows, or they can put a lid on it and have a bonus room upstairs. And I was like, well, the answer is going to be, it depends on if you want to spend $50,000 on window treatments, because you need to cover those individual windows depending on the direction that's facing. Mine is west facing. So it gets hot if those windows aren't covered with some sort of like Hunter Douglas window treatment or blind or something. Plus, if you want to warm it up, you're going to do draperies on both sides. It's probably a lot more than $50,000. It was $50,000 for me a decade ago. So I'm just going to say, if you are down to throw down and do it the right way, then get that volume, go crazy, spend the money doing it. But if you didn't know the price of window treatments today, that bonus room is going to save you a lot more money. And also, let me say this. This is Rachel Parcells' home. This would be an example of what a room would feel like if you put a lid on it, got that bonus room upstairs, and then you just have that single height of windows. We've got built-ins on both sides here. Still beautiful fireplace, still beautifully well-appointed room. And you don't have to spend for the window treatment. You have to know that when you make decisions like this.
Yep. I would say it would also depend upon me, like how tall the ceiling would be if you put the lid on it. Like, are we talking like it's 8 foot, 8 foot everywhere?
No. She said she would have
10 foot ceilings?
10 foot ceilings.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like 10 feet is
great.
Plenty.
And you're not blocking your view. So I'm like, that was the other contender. I'm like, if you have a great view, that's also, if you like bought this house, you have nothing behind you and like you look out at like Mount Vitruvius, like for sure, like let's make sure to capture that.
Yeah.
But the window treatments are just going to cost a lot of money. And even on Rachel's house, I remember they wanted to go taller, but she kept saying the word cozy.
Yeah.
And so you kept saying like, you need to pull it down. You need to pull it down, or
So
you're going to lose the cozy.
Yeah.
It's going to get too hot and too tall. So
we always say that you're going to lose the cozy.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. On a shirt. We do a shirt.
But there are so many factors into answering a question like that. And if you want prestige, right, then the great big 2-story great room, because you're going to entertain and this thing's going to look magical and it's going to be beautiful across the bay, people looking in, and right, you get grandeur with the 2-story great room, and maybe money's no object and you're like, $50,000 for window treatments. Yes, please sign me up for that.
Yeah.
I love that look. Then the 2-story great room is for you, you know? But I'm just saying it does come with heat rises. Like those are hot, loud rooms. And so you just kind of have to understand the other end of the stick. And then
Yeah.
also, like, how are we going to address those great big 2-story walls besides the wall that the windows are on? We're doing built-ins because that's
Also-
expensive.
Oh man, yeah.
The
Uh,
fireplace.
And then we got to fill that up.
Yeah.
Or we're going to do a 2-story fireplace. That's expensive. So these grand rooms come with grand price tags.
you want it
So
to be
true.
clad in marble, that's going to cost you.
Yeah.
Like,
But
Yeah.
maybe that's the look that you've dreamed
Yeah,
of. And this is the
exactly.
dream home. Let's do it. Game on. But if you want the feel of
Yeah.
cozy, then let's drop the lid, get the bonus room upstairs, really well appoint this, do a single story drapery, and feel cozy in that room, you know?
Yep.
lots
So,
to think about.
Yeah, but everybody writes in and is like, what am I going to do with these huge walls? You know? And you're like, well,
You're not alone.
yeah,
Mm.
you're not alone.
Yep.
Definitely.
Okay.
So that's
Okay.
that's the wall of drapes.
Yep.
Number 3 is the 2-story fireplace,
Yes.
like we talked about. So people want to know, what do I put on top of my mantle if I have a 2-story fireplace?
I would say probably 90% of the time we're doing, because obviously our TV is not above there because we've already put it in our built-in.
Yeah.
To the left or the right.
Also, it's 2 stories, so it would be
Also, it's
neck-breakingly
2
high,
stories.
right?
I would-
But some people do
Stacking
that.
TVs. That's
I
football
know.
Sunday. I don't know. You got every
Yeah.
game on.
Oh,
That's
okay.
an option.
Yes.
Man, I'm offending you guys right now. That's amazing.
No, but I think that we need to know what the other half thinks, because a lot of people listening live with somebody else, right? And this is going to be the fight that they're going to have when they're trying to decide what to do above that 2-story fireplace. He's like, more TVs.
Mhm. Yeah,
Not just,
exactly.
if one is good,
Yeah.
2 is better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We might. I don't know. No, I mean, in all honesty, I totally agree with you guys. I mean, you go to my home, my TV's above my fireplace. I have the frame. I do it so I can like watch TV and like make dinner and watch football from
It's
afar.
perfect.
Corey's
Yeah.
making dinner, guys.
Yeah. You know, I make dinner at least 3 times a week.
Wow.
Yeah, Mari, you can
Ladies and
check me on that.
gentlemen,
Yeah.
I like it. Corey for the people.
Yes. So there's like reason behind it. And when I'm sitting on my sofa, I'm laying down, so my gaze
Is up.
there.
Yeah.
So
You
yeah.
know, you have a design podcast. You know what you're doing.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's a case.
But I do agree with you.
right?
But you could build a case for it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's true. And
Yeah.
and honestly, like there's exceptions to every rule.
Mhm.
And I can say every time we're just like adamant about one thing, like don't put it above the fireplace. There are times that we have done it above the fireplace, master bedrooms, when there's windows on each side. There's always cases where that was the right move and the only move.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so again, like don't feel bad
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
all.
I will
but-
say,
yeah.
back to just answering the
Yeah.
question.
Sorry, we got on
Yeah.
tangent.
Yeah.
No,
cut off.
I think that's what's fun about this
Yeah.
podcast. Yeah, right. Is that we can
freestyle.
pop off.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, is that we generally are going to put a mirror on top of the fireplace, and if it's 2 stories, we're not using the standard mirror. We're doing
The
a
30
floor
incher.
mirror on top of a mantle.
That's rad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's the height that you need.
Mhm.
Floor mirror is like 72 to 84, sometimes like
84
maybe
inches
depending
high. Yeah.
on that mirror. So
Yep.
you're tall.
Yep. So we're
Very tall.
generally putting a massive
Do you
mantle
try
up
to
there.
go for a wider one then?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Just
Probably
making sure,
just-
because I'm like looking at this one in the corner. I'm like, that's not going to be.
Yeah, it's generally like 48 inches wide. It's
Mhm.
in the 40s.
So this is a big.
It's
mirror.
huge. It's like a floor mirror that would lean on the ground, and it's I'm trying to think of a catalog. Like RH would maybe have one this big and this wide. We have a lot of different vendors that have things that are this big and wide, but it's generally not going to be just like your floor mirror for your daughter's bedroom. That's not going to work up there. Yeah. So we're going to do the really large floor mirror. We are going to generally lean a piece of
Lean
art on the bottom right image of that. Do we have a picture of? Oh, let's
There's
show them
one.
this.
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
this one, and then we also have Rachel's house, the living room, because that was a big girl. Anyway, this is a home again. This is Highland Manor again, and this just like showed that massive. This is like this like faux horn with these brass corners on it, and this is a floor mirror, and I want to say that that's about 84 inches tall. So it's huge. Usually with like floor mirrors, we're gonna lean them and anchor them
Okay.
Mhm.
on these, so it's not something that we're gonna hang high. If it is hanging, that means it's been framed out with finish work, like in Rachel's. I should have it somewhere. Anyway,
Oh.
JK,
Mm,
JK.
Maybe we don't.
Look on our. Oh, hey, here we go. Here we go.
Got it.
I got it.
Here we go,
Research paper.
Wildcats.
Anyway, so
Oh.
you're gonna anchor those.
Yeah.
If it's just a floor mirror, and that's gonna give so much back to that wall. It's going to feel like another window on that fireplace, which will help
Mhm.
fill up that space. And then it does give you the opportunity to layer additional art or collections of candlesticks or whatever you want to display up there.
Yeah, this is the Rachel Parcell space. And do you want to tell them what we're seeing here? Because this was finished work. So we're attached to the wall, not just
Yes.
anchored.
Exactly. So again, in a great big room like this, oftentimes we'll do paneling. And so paneling is just like, again, the actual finished panels to just like give occupancy to these void big walls. And so it made sense to kind of frame out a mirror above this 2-story fireplace with finished work and then have the mirror placed within it and then sconces flank it. And we were able to like layer it with art and candlesticks and all the beautiful things. So, but if it didn't have that mirror, it would feel very vacant.
Mm-hmm.
So again, that's how we address majority of the fireplaces, the tall, massive fireplaces that we work with.
This is another example. This is a 2-story room. We're using a really large floor mirror here. It looks like faux horn. We're 48 inches at least wide and 72 high. This is fun because it reflects back the upstairs library in the window over the fireplace. You also see that chandelier again. And
That's twice. That's
yeah, you get 2 chandeliers for the
Exactly.
price of
Yeah.
one. Am I right?
You.
And then we just usually layer something on the mantle. So this is also a pro tip for you designers out there. If you're doing a mantle, especially 2 stories, you want to have that thing like 14 inches deep because you have to put big stuff on a 2-story mantle,
Mhm.
and you've got to be able to fit like a ginger jar or stacks of books or. Do you know what I mean? You can't
some
have a
projections.
shallow.
something deeper than
Yeah.
like your standard 6-inch one or something like that. Yeah.
Totally.
Exactly.
This is.
No, these again, we're just occasionally there's another floor mirror. We will do art, but it just needs to be scaled per the room. So you can put art up there. I just want to point this out on this image right here that you can do art, but just like scale it towards the room. And again, we have another floor mirror and this one on this picture as well. And again, I think the occupancy too is when you have a 2-story fireplace to make it interesting. If you are working with like a stone right now and you don't like it, these are 2 examples where we've overgrouted it to again just like modernize it. So if you're living in a remodel and you don't know what to do with this old fireplace, this is a beautiful way that we've addressed too here by overgrouting the stone and then putting something really large on top of the mantle.
What about like lime? What are your feelings on like lime wash plaster? It's kind of like what is done out in our showroom, like behind the cash wrap. Doing like, I mean, if you're going to do that on just the fireplace, do you feel like it needs to be more than just a fireplace, or can you treat it with that?
You could plaster the 2-story,
that, yeah.
sort of that,
That
because it
channel.
usually
The box or-
projects, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, in the room. And I think plaster is lovely on that. If it's not stone 2 stories or limestone 2 stories, plaster's lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, and it feels like one entity that's like been dropped in. So again, it can kind of speak that. I don't know if I would do it like a different color than the rest of the walls. I would keep it kind of like tonal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think plaster is beautiful.
Agreed.
Always.
Yeah.
Plaster's always beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The next one, number 4, is the wall behind the TV. And again, this is I think another question that we get a lot or we see it a lot where people mount their TVs in a really high story. So they mount them too high and they're like depending on this TV to be the full focus of this giant wall. And so I think I've seen this like done so successfully here at Jess's house, and she's going to tell us what she did behind her TV because I think it's so beautiful for a tall space. Jess, what'd you do?
Yeah. So I just have our Theodore console. And I have my TV sitting right on it, on its base. I really like the TV sitting on its base. That's what's happening everywhere in my house. I never mount it. It's like, I don't know, it feels too shallow when it's stuck to the wall. And I like the depth of the TV sitting out and on something. And then I have that whole space behind it to play with. So here I have Capistrano seaweeds, which are framed. These are huge pieces of art. They look normal here. But because they are just plants, right? They're not so fascinating that you'd care that the TV is blocking a third of it, right? Your brain can definitely fill it in. If you're on the side of it, you can see the whole piece. If you're looking straight at it, you just see these silhouettes of, this seaweed life.
I think
And
that's what makes it cool though.
yeah,
Like I feel like this is my opinion. If a TV's hung on the wall and you're hanging art around it, it's like a gallery. That's not my thing. I would do that. What makes this cool is that it's behind it, so it kind of piques your interest a little bit. You're like, what's back there, type of thing,
Right.
You know. So yeah, that's why I think that's
Yeah.
amazing.
And it's the thing I love too about this is that the art looks like it's always been there. Like that was like the original
And
composition.
you've been around
and
it.
you've added modern convenience and layered on top of it.
Yeah.
So again, the art feels like really authentic to the space.
Yeah.
And then you're just like
The
layering.
TV's not the decor.
No, it's
Yeah,
not.
that's just there for us to turn on if we want to, but the room is still complete and we can have a conversation with the TV off.
Totally.
Yep.
It's still really interesting. And we'll often have to explain this trick to our clients. We're like, trust me, your brain's going to be fine. It's going to look really great and done. And we've done this in a few places, and I think that it works out
I
great.
think the size of your TV does matter on this composition though. If it was bigger than that,
Yeah.
it might not. Anyway, you play with that and like how big your wall is. There's definitely not like a one math that solves all solutions right here, but
Mhm.
The art has to be bigger. Than,
art has to be bigger than that.
Considerably.
And I have to say, I don't know if this is just because what I'm used to looking at in my house, but I do think a diptych or a triptych works great in this sense. Because otherwise you get into the gallery wall, but then the gallery, you want to see each piece, and the TV is going to be blocking up 72 inches of it, 84 inches of it, 60 something inches of it in my case. So I do think that the diptych or triptych is a good one.
It stretches
you
your
have-
eye.
Also, if you have like one
really good.
huge piece of art back there, you're going to still be missing quite a bit of it. So that's why I really like this continued piece of art over 2 or 3 frames
I love that.
as a rule. And I think we kind of need
So
to give
too.
people some boundaries because
Totally.
this might be your first time doing it. So that's our pro tip. Yeah.
Such a good tip.
Great.
Okay. And then number 5
Number
is our
f-
stairwell.
Yeah, number 5 is the stairwell. So this is oftentimes you'll have the stairwell which is open to above, and so you've got a huge wall in this instance. So we have a couple examples of. Let's do one of our favorite examples first. I think everybody at home will really love this. So this is a client that we worked with in Dallas, Texas.
Mhm.
Suze, tell them about what's happening here in the
Nice.
picture.
So it's just like the most lovely family with all these kids that they're actually really good artists and they like enroll. And I think a lot of you can probably relate to this where like your kids take these art classes in the summer or at school, they keep coming back with stuff and you just have this pile and boxes of all their art that you love, but you don't know how and where to display it. This was not their main staircase, but the back staircase that they go up and down all the time from their mudroom. And this was like the perfect place to display all these art pieces. Some of them are things from her collections, but a lot of them are her children's art, which I just love. And like as they grow up, she's going to be so happy that she has this like memorandum, like all plastered onto the wall. And even since here, we've grown it. We've added pieces to this as she's acquired them. And so we did them all in the same frame, like just a simple white frame, just to kind of keep it continuous and not too choppy. But it's just like lines and goes up and down her stairwells on both sides. And it's pretty darn magical. And there's a full pulse.
I love
And the
it.
kids are so proud to see their stuff on the wall. Like there's a real pride moment there.
Cute.
So,
And did you used white matte sometimes? Sometimes you didn't use matte at all.
yeah.
And did you get the
Yeah, we
frames
used-
from the same place, or were they custom framed every
They were
time?
custom framed every time. But
Okay.
yeah, we usually just like use the same exact frame.
Mhm.
And again, like using a simple white frame, it's not going to break the bank.
Mhm.
Even if you are getting them custom framed. Like you can go to FrameBridge, I'm sure, but when you have some of these like odd pieces that they come home with, like a paper plate or whatever it is,
Yeah.
like you kind of need to like, I don't know,
have
outfit
a-
it correctly.
Hey,
So,
yeah. And they're not going to be in standard sizes.
exactly,
And yeah.
exactly.
I love how you did like, I mean, it looks like the same profile of frame.
Mhm.
Yeah, but different size mats.
Mhm.
So it's
Yeah.
not like everything has a 4-inch mat on it, and it's
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that's really cool. I like that.
And I think that depends on the piece, like how much reverence you want to give it or how much like as far as, yeah, just white space basically.
Yeah.
It's so
Totally.
that was a really successful example of how to address a big wall.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is something similar in a project here in Utah in Pleasant Grove. This is our Linden Art Manor, and she collected art from artists, right?
Yeah, we cataloged like, I don't know, like hundreds of like little pieces of art that she had gathered before we even started the build. Because we're just like, we have all this art that we have to figure out how are we going to display everything.
Mhm.
And like we have several spots in her house where we have done galleries. But again, just this is even just like on the wall leading, you know, up that pitch of the stairs. And we just like framed a lot of beautiful pieces that she had just collected. And it's fun because it's at like the stairs is nice just because all these things are at eye level.
Yeah.
You know, so you actually like walk and ascend or descend with the art, and you can kind of stop and peek at it and like look at the line work. And I think like with small pieces of art, this is a great application. Same thing with like, be it art, kids art, or photography. I think photography is awesome, a really good thing to fill up some of these large walls. And I think with photography, you can do black and white photography, or just like you just capture these moments and these candid little faces of your family. And like, it's just so lovely to fill up these walls that could have been forgotten and just like feel like this massive vacancy with something that's really heartfelt and something that you want to be reminded of. We don't print pictures anymore. So I love the idea of printing pictures. In addition to the art and all the other things, I could collect it all. But yeah, it's a gallery wall going up and down the stairs, I think is really solid. And then the one other thing I was just like, we mentioned this a lot, and this is like a little clip of a picture for that stair wall, is if say you don't like the busyness of a gallery wall, you can do big art, but one thing that's really fun is to hang a rug. That's what I did in our stairwell. We have this Moroccan rug that we hung, and I actually had it down on the floor at one point, but then I was looking at it, it had such a high pile difference that I'm like, this needs to go on the wall. This is art. And so we actually hung it on this stairwell wall, and you juxtapose it with smaller pieces, but just the impact that has on that whole scene is really interesting. It's a different medium, so it's not painting, it's textile. And I think that like, and on these large walls, really consider what this looks like. And it's not like you're like, when we say hang a rug, I'm not saying hang a power loomed rug. I'm saying hang a piece of art. Hang, like we buy a lot of really beautiful one of a kind antique rugs for the store, and we have them framed. So be it in a real frame, or we also have them just like raw hanging on the wall. And both are just so beautiful, and it just gives us importance to this like really, I feel this craft, this like beautiful art, you know, where people, these are hand done, and some of them are hundreds and hundreds of years old. So it's a nice way to mix up the medium on your wall and just to add a lot of interest and a lot of scale to these massive big walls. So really cool behind a TV too.
Yes.
I think a rug would be a fantastic way to, and we did this trick in Rachel's nursery for her youngest, and we did a massive, this like white Moroccan. We just wanted it to feel really just textural and warm and cozy. And so we did this big Moroccan rug hanging behind the baby's crib.
And it just had visual softness. It still felt like heaven because it was off-white, undyed wool from sheep. And it just kind of told that really sweet baby story. And yeah, I love that one. This one is still in our collection, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Is it called the Moroccan rug?
The Moroccan wool rug, yep.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
And it's got these like little dimples in it. And so it's got this really high texture, off-white feel. It's beautiful. I think we hung the 5x7 on the wall. So, yeah. Yep. So that's a really great trick too.
I want to say, because I like on that Moroccan rug, I had my framer, he did like this cleat behind it with like this wrapped fabric. You can do that, or you can just nail it into the wall.
We just nailed it into the wall.
I just want y'all to like give you permission for that. So
yeah.
Yes.
Totally. Well, guys, that wraps up our 5 ways to treat the big wall.
Big wall.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I hope that answers some of your questions, because I know it is complex and it's a lot of wall, and you're like, how am I ever going to buy enough stuff to fill it? So hopefully that gives you some ideas as you're staring at your spaces, and hopefully it's inspired you to know how to dress your wall. And we wanted to remind you guys, we have a complimentary home furnishing design service, and it's a chance to work with one of our talented designers. It's completely complimentary. It's going to include your space planning. They're going to take your house and they can put it in AutoCAD. They can really space plan it with the furniture. We have 200 vendors plus our own unique stuff, and we can get in there and really get smart about the space planning, the furniture selections, the fabric selections, the personalized design for your style. It's been so fun for them. It's been a really popular service. So if you guys want to get started, just go to alicelanehome.com and get started with the home furnishing design service. Thanks again so much for listening, you guys. We will see you next time. Hey, thanks for listening. If you like our show, please leave a 5-star rating.